I just welcome to Films from the Phantom Zone. Welcome to Films from the Phantom Zone, your podcast about failed and forgotten comic book movies. My name is Arnaldo, and I'm joined as always by my co-host,
Berto.
Sorry, I almost trampled over you there. Yeah, so let's just get right into it. What movie are we watching today, Berto?
The Legend of Zorro.
Yeah, that is the second Zorro, the sequel from 2005. I get these titles mixed up all the time
Right.
because they're very similar. Mask of Zorro, Legend of Zorro. But Mask of Zorro is the first one, Legend of Zorro, the second one. They only made two, so this is it. So we're doing this because we did Mask of Zorro last week. If you skip that episode, I suggest listening to that one. Fuck this episode. No, and then come back and check it out, right?
Right. And definitely watch that movie because that's actually a very good movie.
Spoiler alert for that episode last week. I said Mask of Zorro is the best movie we've watched so far.
Whoa.
In my opinion. And you said you're still on Kick-Ass.
Yeah, that's...
But I would say it's Mask of Zorro for me. I think that's
All right. And
that's a really good one.
That's a fair one, too, because I had a lot of fun watching that.
Yeah. So, this movie is available on Starz.
Does anybody have that?
No. So, but you can always rent a movie. So, if you want to watch along or watch the movie before you listen to us talking about it, that's how you can get that. Or rent it. Like I said, I own this on DVD, so it wasn't a problem for me. But I also own almost everything on DVD. So, this is never a problem for me. Otherwise, there's time codes in the description while we go through our initial thoughts, the plot, some analysis, and then keep or cancel. So, are you ready to get going?
Yeah, let's go.
Initial thoughts. The year is 2005. Where were you and did you watch The Legend of Zorro?
2005, I was a kid. I was 12 years old. I did not watch this movie. I didn't know the sequel existed.
Really?
Yeah. 2005. What was popular at the time? Yu-Gi-Oh!
Yeah.
Can't think of any movies I was really watching at the time. Maybe there was an X-Men movie that came out around that time. But this was not one of those hero movies that I watched in that year.
Okay. I watched this because I was such a fan of The Mask of Zorro. As a kid, I said last week, that's one that I played on loop. I loved that movie growing up. And there was a bit of a time gap. This movie is 2005. That last one was 98. So a 7-year gap between films is quite a bit. So by the time this came out, I would have been 16. So I was almost in that too cool zone to care about something from my childhood. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I ended up going to see this movie in theaters on a date. Because again, I was 16.
Okay.
And I remember being disappointed, but I don't remember much of anything else.
Okay.
I never saw it again. So when we watched this, it was kind of like watching it for the first time. Only thing I remember is that he has a kid in that movie, and that's it.
Which we gathered from the end of the last movie. Spoiler alert.
Like I said, I was always disappointed. Even at first viewing at 16, I was disappointed because it just doesn't live up to the first one. But are you ready to get into it?
Yeah.
The plot? All right, yeah. So let's get into the plot. The movie starts with another prologue, but this one's a lot shorter. And it just basically says that I think it's been 9 years in movie or something like that. And now California is being voted on to joining the United States of America as a state.
Yeah, so this is around the time right before the Civil War?
It's immediately right before the Civil War, yeah. Right before the Civil War, there was such a push for more and more states for voting power. So the North kept on getting more states to join the Union, knowing that they weren't slave states. Meanwhile, the Confederacy kept on trying to get in more slave states to bring to their cause, keep the balance of voting power. But they always knew if the North would get more and more states and outvote them, then that would lead to a civil war.
All right.
That was kind of the tension at the time. Prologue. And then there's the big vote. Everybody's in California is voting on whether or not to join the Union. And people are worried that the election's going to get tampered with.
Yeah,
right?
this... kind of relevant.
Yeah. I was like, oh, this is of all the familiar places.
But then also, this vote is very clearly, a big deal.
Right. And unlike today, they're just kind of checking off a box on a ballot, then they throw it on a box, that gets put on a horse, and then it kind of goes away. It's very easy to tamper with this election.
Yes.
But someone says, oh, don't worry, Zorro will protect the, election integrity. But, and so
I mean, he is for the people.
He is, yeah, exactly. And so we see him. He's got his hat and cloak.
Yeah.
His undercover wear. He's just waiting for something to happen, right? Oh, and then the priest walks into the chapel because he hears the boy has rang the bells for Zorro.
Oh, yeah, and he's like, what the hell are you doing?
And he goes, 5 bells for Zorro. Apparently, 5 bells is like the bat signal.
If he hears signal. 5 bells, he shows up.
Exactly. I don't know. Like, I didn't research. I don't know if that's a thing or not, but that's clearly like the bat signal.
Yeah, it's the equivalent.
And the priest is like, oh, Zorro's already here. Like, this is a monumental whatever.
Yeah.
And so then the bad guy shows up.
He's a racist son of a bitch, that's for sure.
Yeah, just some racist guy, and he shows up on a horse with some other
Jacob
bad guys.
McGivens is the character.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, McGivens. They call him that a couple times.
Yeah.
So he's just like this white guy who's very clearly racist.
He doesn't like Mexicans.
Right, exactly. And he says a couple times about, like, the purity of something. And right in the beginning, he spews a bunch of, like, racist Christian bullshit. He's like, God don't want your people or something like that.
Which
like,
is not, that's not Christian
That's
teachings.
not what the Bible says.
No.
Yeah, exactly. Also, he's got like a huge cross like tattooed on his face.
It
like
almost
branded.
looks like he got
branded. But then he starts shooting people, but he doesn't shoot people. He shoots the hats off their heads.
Yeah, was that symbolism for something, or was he just being a dick?
Well, I think this movie's supposed to be a lot more family friendly.
Oh, okay.
So I think instead of using guns to hurt people, he's using guns to scare them by shooting their hats off.
Okay.
Which I don't think that's a thing you can do.
No.
Accurately.
You'd probably end up shooting them in the head by accident.
You'd probably kill somebody, yeah.
Yeah.
So he basically just shows up and just tells them his plan. I'm going to steal the ballots. And, you know...
Yeah, because he says something like, well, I haven't put my vote in yet.
Well, that's a good accent.
I didn't think it was, but...
So then Zorro just saves the day, right?
Yeah.
But...
Okay action scene. Nowhere near as good as the first movie.
That's kind of my problem here is that the action scenes are much, much worse.
Yeah. They're still fun, I will say that.
We'll get into the other ones, but this first one I really do not like.
Something the first movie did really well was there was no, like, quick cuts or anything. And, like, the camera was zoomed out to where you can actually see them fighting.
Yeah.
This doesn't really have as much of that.
No, at all. This first action scene just kind of breaks that completely. It's all, like, cut to Zorro's face, zoom in, close up. He does a flip, and then it cuts to his feet, and then it cuts back to his face. And
it feels like an early 2000s action movie.
Yeah. And there's some CGI in this. I don't know if you've noticed it, but it's not very good. But this is around that era where they thought, oh, we can just do everything in CGI.
A lot of this is just the product of the times that the movie was made in.
They're just like really overconfident in their CGI skills. So they're like, no, fuck it. Like that background, all CGI. This smoke, this explosion, everything, we're just going to do CGI.
They George Lucas'd it.
Yep. And they're like, it's going to look exactly like real life. And it doesn't. It does not age well, but...
No.
But like I was saying, so this action scene, this fight in like the town square leads to a chase. Zorro is chasing the bad guys who have the ballots. They end up fighting on a bridge, and it's all very PG. Like nobody gets stabbed. They have swords, but nobody gets stabbed.
Yeah.
They've got guns, but nobody gets shot. They're just kind of like
hitting each other.
They're kind of just like pretend fighting. That's how it feels like. They're like kids just pretending. Yeah. You know what I mean? And there's like some weird humor. Like the last movie was funny because it was really smart, right? Like a lot of the physical humor was not, it wasn't like slapsticky. And then
it was all like in the moment and like appropriate for the moment.
And then the rest of the humor is all in the writing and in the dialogue, which was super clever. This like immediately has like a crotch shot.
Yeah.
Like he hits like a wooden, like a pole, and then it like bounces up and it hits someone in the balls, and he's like, ooh, and it like holds on the guy for a while before he like falls very safely into like a river that's just like 2 feet below them, right?
McGivens does get like all of his teeth knocked out in this fight, though.
Oh, that's right. That's why he has wooden teeth.
Yeah. He gets like something. I guess Zorro hits him in the face. He falls down. He spits all his teeth.
He spits
out.
them all out. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. I did not notice that because we took a big break in this movie because that's a setup and a payoff.
Yeah.
And we watched the first like 20 minutes, and then something happened. Something came up, and then we finished it like 2 days later.
Yeah.
So I didn't even notice that until you brought it up.
Were you just thinking like, oh, he's had wooden teeth the whole time?
Yeah, I forgot
he loses his teeth at the beginning of the movie.
That's right. So yeah, it just seems like a very PG fight, and all of it just seems so glossy and cartoony almost, right?
Feels very 2005.
Yeah. So meanwhile, we get to see Elena. He goes back to his mansion.
Oh, he does get his mask knocked off, and this kind of becomes important.
Why?
Like during this fight, he gets his mask knocked off, and then you notice like these two white guys just looking at him, and then they look at each other. It's the two agents, because they see his mask come off, and then he like cuts off a piece of his own cloth off his shirt and makes another mask real quick.
Those two guys were there?
Yeah.
Jeez, man. You see, like, this is what happens when you take a break in a movie. I did not piece that together. I didn't notice them until we see them later on.
That's another, like, payoff type thing.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. But it's my own fault for not watching this in one viewing. Again, something came up. We had to stop watching the movie. Anyway. So he goes back to his mansion, and we see Elena, who's played by Catherine Zeta-Jones, and their son, who's about maybe like 11 or 12, you'd say? Maybe 11.
Well, this is what,
like
9
10.
years later? He's probably like 10.
Oh, yeah, he's supposed to be like 9 or 10. Exactly, yeah, you're right. She's expecting him to give up being Zorro now, because now that California is part of the United States, they have no need for Zorro, because the United States is like a well-put-together government with like federal agents and police and yada yada.
But one of the catches was like it was going to take like 3 months for it to become official or something. And
so get like certified and
Alejandro was saying like, you know, Zorro might still need to help, you know, keep order during this time. Also,
it's the beginning of the movie, so yes, Zorro does need, so stuff will come up.
Yeah,
but that's not good enough for her. She's the love interest to the superhero that wants him to quit, right? For her,
right? And
for the kid. And so she kind of gives him an ultimatum. She's like, no, we need to travel, and we need to leave, and we need to be a family. And if it's basically Zorro or me.
And he's just like, I'm sorry, this is who I am.
Yeah, like he has to be Zorro. So the next day she drops off the kid at school. The kid is named Joaquin, who's named after
Alejandro's brother.
Alejandro is Zorro, played by Antonio Banderas. We kind of skipped that part. We kind of assume you knew that, but... So the kid is talking to the mom, Joaquin is talking to Elena. He kind of like resents his dad for never being around.
Right, which it's because, you know, he's a superhero.
Exactly, yeah. And then she realizes that she's being followed. And then she gets kind of cornered by these two guys. And those were the two guys you mentioned. Saw Zorro's face.
And they recognized who he was, obviously, because now they're following his wife.
Exactly.
They follow her into like an alley.
I never understand why, like, this happens in movies all the time. When someone's being followed and they're like in a street, they walk into an alley instead of staying in like the populated area. They're like, oh, let me get away. Let me go into this alley where
I will be cornered.
Exactly. Let me go to the worst, most dangerous place I can.
And then we get like a little fight scene where she starts beating him up.
Like if I'm being followed, I'm going straight to the police department.
Oh, hell yeah.
You know, like just walk into the sheriff's office and be like, hey, like.
Or just somewhere very populated where like.
Yeah.
There's witnesses.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so she kind of does a fight with them.
Yeah.
But
she starts beating them up, but then they kind of pull out some documents or something. Basically something that proves that they know that her husband is Zorro. And the implication here is that they're blackmailing her into doing something.
Exactly. So, Alejandro's in a bathhouse.
With a bunch of men.
But, well, I mean, that's what a bathhouse is. But they have got like this floating table where they're playing poker in the middle. I was looking at that, I'm like, that looks kind of fun, honestly. Like, I kind of want a floating table for like a jacuzzi. We can play poker on it.
Yeah, they're all just sitting in a tub naked playing poker together.
But that's what they did. But like, other than like the naked part, that kind of sounds fun. I'd be down. But yeah, he makes a comment. He's like, I don't want to sit with you naked guys anymore. He gets up, leaves, but he gets served by someone, and it's like a divorce notice.
Did this all happen in the same day?
Yeah, it was like the next day.
Okay.
It's really convenient that she gave him the ultimatum the day before. And now they can be like,
because now it's like, oh, there's a reason for the divorce.
Exactly. We'll get into that. But anyway. Yeah. So, divorce. And then it just says 3 months later. Boom.
It's assumed that they're divorced now.
Yeah, exactly. So, he wakes up in a hotel, and apparently he's been heavily drinking. He just gets drunk every night.
Yeah, just like he used to.
Right. The maid walks in. Yeah, exactly. he wakes up and he's naked and he's like, where are my clothes? And he's like, oh, I took them off of you because... And she's like blushing because they were all wet.
Because you went for a swim after you got home, and he's like, does this hotel have a pool? And she's like, no, but it has a fountain.
And she's giggling like she was there.
Yeah, so I guess he just got drunk and jumped into a fountain.
Yeah.
So she stripped him and put him in bed, I guess.
I guess. Sexually assaulted him.
And then
there's sexual assault in every single movie we've ever watched, by the way.
And then, what was his name? Father...
What is his name? Actually, no, I'm very interested because
he's a cool character.
He's fine. His name is Padre Felipe.
Okay.
So, he's the priest. But he's basically his Commissioner Gordon.
Yeah.
Like, straight up. Again, he rings the bells. He keeps tabs on all,
like, the crime. He's kind of like a Commissioner Gordon mixed with Alfred a little bit, too.
He's like his helper. Yeah, exactly. And so he walks in and he's there to help him because, like...
Well, he immediately, like, scolds Lupe. He's like, I'll see you at confession. Yeah. Because Alejandro's standing there naked, and he's like, stop looking at me. And she's just giggling, looking at his dick. He's basically like, you need to stop being your drunk self right now and get your shit together. You're coming with me to a party tonight.
Okay, yeah.
And if you don't come, don't bother coming to confession because I'll never forgive you.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Trying to set him straight. But, so they go to a really fancy, like, soiree.
Yeah.
And it's hosted by
a French fuck.
His name is Count Armand, is the character's name. Armand. It's played by Rufus, I don't know how to say his name.
Sewel?
Dude's very famous. If you see him, he's one of those, like, that guy.
Yeah, it's like I've seen that guy.
And you don't know from where, but he's in
a lot of shit.
It's the Knight's Tale. He's the bad guy in Knight's Tale.
And this guy's he looks like a bad guy. Just look at his face and you're like, he looks evil.
The Holiday, that's right. He's in The Holiday. Isn't he in,
Is he a French actor? Or is he English?
He's English.
Okay.
I could kind of tell he wasn't French. What else is he in? Doesn't matter. Yeah, I remember him from...
The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel?
From Knight's Tale. Armand, that's his name. Anyway, yeah, as soon as he gets there, as soon as he's on screen, you immediately know this is the bad guy.
Yeah.
And it's something about recognizable actor mixed with, like, just the way he's talking. You're like, boom, bad guy. They have a run-in, and they start to kind of, like, get to know each other or whatever. And then shows up Elena. So apparently, this is Elena's new boyfriend.
Yes.
And
what a surprise that is for
Alejandro. He's pissed about it. So he just immediately starts chugging as much alcohol as he can, and then makes a big fool of himself at the party.
And Padre's like, maybe we should leave.
Yeah, so instead he goes to dance, and they're doing like one of those kind of big orchestrated dances, like the really fancy ones where everyone's like in a line.
It's a line dance.
Well,
but
yeah,
not like cowboy.
Right, but you know what I'm talking about, like the ones from like old timey movies,
like fancy party dancing.
And during this point, I'm like, what? This is such a downgrade from the last movie in terms of like a fancy party and a dance. Because the last movies had that tango scene.
Yeah.
It had so much good character interactions. It had really good dialogue. And this just seems so just like cheap and watered down, you know?
Yeah.
So, they have arguments about like, oh, now you're with this guy and blah, blah, blah. The same shit you've seen in 1,000 movies.
Yeah.
This is just a very recycled plot point.
But as this goes on, he's just getting angrier and more drunk.
And making more of a fool of himself, yeah.
Which I guess is the point. Like, he embarrasses himself in front of everybody.
Exactly. So, Elena, like, tells him to, like, leave. He does leave, and then he continues drinking, like, with Tornado the horse.
Yeah. And
then Tornado kind of walks off, and then you hear an explosion. And I don't know what you thought. This movie wasn't clear at all, but I thought Tornado died.
Yeah, because it was like in the direction that Tornado walked off.
Tornado just walks off. He trots off, and then you hear an explosion right there, and then Alejandro goes to see what it is, and he just sees a big crater.
Also, like, I didn't know what this explosion was, because it was just like a bright, almost like blue light.
Well, it's the plot point.
Right, but we don't find that out till later.
Yeah, this almost didn't need to be in the movie, by the way.
I'll be honest, at first I thought it was like, did like a meteor hit the ground?
Yeah. And him witnessing this explosion doesn't clue him into what's happening later.
No, it makes him suspicious of something, sort of, but like, well, actually, no, it makes us suspicious. Not
exactly.
Really him.
I think it's just there to break up boring parts of the plot.
Yeah.
You know?
It might be a way of letting like the audience know, like, hey, something's up.
But it's stupid, is what I'm saying.
Because things don't just explode.
And again, they weren't clear if the horse died or not. And I'm just very worried about the horse. And like, if they fucking kill this horse for no reason, I'm going to be very upset. And you don't see the horse until later in the movie, so I was wondering the entire time if the horse exploded.
And we do later find out what this explosion actually was.
Yeah, and the horse is fine. But I'm just saying, it's kind of an unnecessary scene. But anyway. At one point, we see Joaquin at school, and he's like not paying attention in class.
And the teacher's being... Well, this is like a Catholic school, right?
Yeah.
That's why he's like smacking kids and
right,
putting dunce caps on
It's
them.
like 1850 or whatever. Exactly. Yeah, it's like dunce caps and like he's hitting kids with rulers and shit.
Yeah.
And so Joaquin kind of stands up for the class and...
He starts dueling his teacher.
He starts having a sword fight with his teacher with like rulers.
Yeah.
And then he does like a flip. And then he does like a swing from like
which is all very
like
Zorro-like, but how did he learn this stuff?
He literally just does Zorro things.
How did he learn any of this if he has no idea that his dad is Zorro? I don't think his dad trains him to fight because his dad's never there.
Exactly. And then he jumps out the window. Like the second story window, does a flip, lands, is fine.
And then gets
Why
in
is
trouble.
this 10-year-old kid a Zorro? Zorro is not a hereditary thing. Like it makes absolutely no sense.
It'd be different if he was being trained or something, but like that's not the case.
So
at least the movie doesn't make it seem like
I don't
it
know
is.
if you noticed, the major theme in this movie is that Zorro is a family. The whole family is Zorro in like idea.
Right.
But they literally make all three of them a Zorro. Like they're all doing sword fights.
Well,
and
even in the
flips
first one, Elena was like skilled in sword fighting.
Yeah, but in this one, I think she does a flip too.
She does.
Okay, so why? How? Like they're not. These people aren't trained to do that. And not only that, she's the one who's like, we're not fighting. We're not doing any of this Zorro shit.
Right.
And she's not trying to instill this in her kid either. Meanwhile, the kid is having sword fights with the teacher. I get the quote unquote the metaphor because the kid is standing up for the people, his classmates, against the oppressive teacher. So he thinks himself a Zorro. That's cute. I get it. But it's goofy. It's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Why fight the teacher? It's cringy. Like, I was a little uncomfortable. I'm like, this is clearly for the kids. It's like,
oh, hey, kids can be badass too.
and you know how you hate your teacher? Do you want to fight your teacher, make a fool of him?
At one point, he like
jump out the
kicks his
window?
teacher in the ass too.
Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah. Like, that's not
He assaulted
okay.
him. Well, to be fair, the teacher was kind of assaulting the kids, but
Sure.
that's also kind of how things were.
They should have, if they wanted to prove their point that the kid, like, wants to be a Zorro, and he wants to be a hero in his own right,
There should have been something hinting.
there should have been a bully or something.
Yeah.
Like-
Not him attacking his
Something
teacher.
something more justified than exactly attacking the teacher, you know?
Yeah.
And he shouldn't be doing flips because why is he already an expert Zorro at the age of 10, you know? Anyway.
Yeah, because there's nothing to indicate that he's had any sort of training.
Right. So, meanwhile,
Alejandro follows Elena to the market the next day. And we have like a little bit of a humorous scene where he's like popping his head out from behind like a watermelon stand and just staring at her.
okay, yeah, but in terms of humor, it's very
It's weak.
It's
weak.
childish
Yeah.
too. It's not smart humor like the last one.
No.
was. It's a little kind of like
It's like a
it was like a Bugs Bunny Elmer Fudd kind of like following him around type deal.
yeah. But like she tries to distract Armand because he is there for a serious reason. He wants to talk to her about the explosion that he saw.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Yeah.
And so basically,
But that conversation never happens.
Yeah, he runs into Armand. Armand invites him back to his place to play polo. But when they go to play polo, which is the soccer on a horse with sticks game.
Yeah, like you see the polo shirt logo, they're playing polo on it.
Yeah. But instead, they like start jousting.
Yeah,
That's not a part of polo.
okay.
right?
Yeah, I've never actually seen the sport, so I didn't know if that was just something that they did.
I think what they do is that they run to hit the ball.
And whoever gets there first.
Has the control of the ball, exactly.
But instead, they were jousting.
literally
and
jousting.
then hitting the ball.
Exactly. So they're trying to knock each other off the horse just to being manly or something. I don't
Yeah.
know. But then at one point, the bad guy, Armand, breaks his stick and makes like a sharp edge and tries to joust with that. So he tries to stab Alejandro.
Right in front of everyone. Well,
Again,
I guess Elena.
What kind of bad guy are you that you're just going to up front just be like, all right, I'm going to kill this guy? Like, you're not even pretending to be, because he's supposed to be the kind of like he's like a Bond villain.
Yeah, he's supposed to be like a charming bad guy where like you're not quite sure.
Exactly.
Well, I mean, we as a viewer know he's bad, but like the other characters don't, you know.
Exactly.
He's almost like mustache twirling bad at this point.
Yeah. So, God, yeah, like there's just some. I'm just trying to realize how random a lot of these scenes are. Like it doesn't really. It's not very coherent the way that this movie jumps around because the next action piece that we get, Zorro hears from Felipe, his Commissioner Gordon, that
some characters that Zorro was interacting with earlier.
Yeah, some nice friend of theirs.
Nice, yeah. Their farm was being targeted
by the bad guys from the beginning. What's his name? What are we calling him?
Was it Jacob?
The racist guy.
I think it's Jacob something. Jacob
McGivens.
There
so McGivens, the bad guy, he's got the long hair, the fucking brand on his face. That guy.
Yeah.
He's going to strong arm this guy into selling him his property.
Well, I don't think he's trying to get him to sell anymore. I think he's just straight up trying to take the deed now.
Yeah, he's just trying to kill him. Because so they have like a shootout. And Zorro comes to try to save the day. And it's Zorro against about like 10 guys with guns.
Which is usually how it is.
It's par for the course for Zorro.
Yeah.
I was kind of expecting a little more he's fighting these people. Instead, he kind of was on a chase in a different part of the scene. Like, he's just not doing that much.
He kind of showed up and like basically stopped them from like straight up killing the farmers. But then I think he was he chasing McGivens?
He was chasing because the wife goes to the barn and leaves the husband in the house. So the action is in two different places.
Yeah.
Zorro's in the least interesting of the two places. And the shootout, Zorro's not there for that part.
Right, because, it's just the man in the house in the shootout with like 10 guys.
I don't know. He does
Zorro kind of left him to die.
Yeah, well, he went to go save the girl and the baby.
Right.
But
okay, I get that.
He does do a really good ladder run. That might be the highlight of the entire movie.
That was impressive as fuck.
So there's a bad guy going up a ladder, and Zorro, he just runs up the ladder around the guy to get to the second floor of the barn.
Before the guy's even up the ladder.
It's the one good stunt in the whole movie.
I'll be honest, when it happened, I was like, that was very impressive.
Yeah, that was awesome. And it felt a lot like it belonged in the last movie that was filled of stuff like that. Just like parkour and ladder runs and flips and all kinds of platforming and sort of whips and shit. This one doesn't have as much of that, but that ladder run was good.
That was good, yeah.
But the whole point of this scene is that he loses. The guy gets killed.
The guy gets killed. The baby almost dies.
The baby's was lit on fire, yeah.
They lit a baby on fire.
The fire is very CGI too. It does not look good.
No, unlike the first movie where it's like they
use real stuff, yeah.
They actually burned down their sets, it seemed like.
Yeah. Oh yeah, because there's a fire in the first one too, and it looks much better. Yeah, so the point of the scene is that he loses. His friend is killed.
Yeah, he's very upset.
The whole point is to kind of keep on beating down Zorro, right?
Which, it seems like a lot of this movie's like, Zorro is just getting beat down the whole time. But, maybe eventually he'll rise up again. Yeah.
So, Elena, meanwhile, we see her sending off carrier pigeons because she is, I guess, a spy. It turns out that the two guys who accosted her at the beginning of the movie want her to spy on Armand for them. And we know that she's being blackmailed to do it. So, as she's trying to spy on Armand during a dinner and she's trying to sneak around his house, Zorro's trying to do the same thing. So they're both sneaking around the house. They don't know they're there, and they have a comical kind of like running into each other.
Yeah. That was okay.
Yeah, but what trope is that? That's very much, like when like two characters are backing up, and they back up into each other.
And then they're like,
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know what that's called, but yeah, it was that.
I'm trying to think of examples of where they use that, but it was literally that because, it felt very Scooby-Doo. Because they're both sneaking around on the same thing. They're both walking on the outside of windows,
but they're like on opposite sides of the building, and then
what are the fucking odds?
Like, eventually seriously. They like converge with each other, and she's like, what the hell are you doing here? And he's like, what the hell are you doing here?
And again, the movie's trying to say that Elena is also like a Zorro. She's doing her own detective
she's not a good spy though. She almost blows her cover like
5 times.
To be fair, Zorro almost blew his cover like 8 times in the first movie too. He's a terrible spy.
No, he was doing a good job, I thought, in the first movie.
He kept antagonizing the villain while he was...
Still, I thought he was getting it done.
Barely. He was barely getting it done.
So instead of them both realizing that kind of on the same side on this. They just keep arguing, right? They should be like, hey, tell me what you know. I'll tell you what I know. And then together, we'll piece it together. I thought it was going to be like a Stranger Things situation where at the end of every Stranger Things season, they're like, wait, what have you been doing this whole time? Oh, well, let me tell you what I got.
Because they've been separate the whole season up until like the last like 2 episodes.
They've been working on different cases and then they realized it's all connected, right? Yeah. I thought that was what they were going to do, but...
Well, it seemed like if they had a little bit more time, maybe they would have done that, but Armand hears Elena like talking on the balcony and he's like, what are you doing out here?
Yeah. Zorro's just kind of like doing a Spider-Man on the top, hiding.
Which he does in the first movie, too.
So Zorro basically overhears the bad guy's plan, which is to, like, build a railroad through the plot of land that they stole from the guy they just killed.
And weren't they going to use, like, I don't know if we know what they're doing with the railroad yet at this point.
Yeah, at this point, they're just going to build a railroad. Yeah. Meanwhile, Elena intercepts a transmission about some word that she doesn't understand. But it's in Latin.
But in this transmission, there is some English words too, and it does talk about that explosion that Zorro saw, where they were testing a new weapon.
Oh, okay. Cool.
It's like very brief on the screen.
Meanwhile, Joaquin goes on a field trip with this school. Didn't know that was a thing that they were doing then. Okay. So anyway, they're on a field trip. McGivern shows up, obviously. There must be like 100 people in this town because they keep on running into each other. But...
And they were just like stopping to grab like water and shit.
Yeah. And so he's kind of intimidating them a little bit. Joaquin, who thinks himself also as a Zorro, decides to hide on their wagon and see what they're up to.
That looked incredibly uncomfortable.
And super dangerous. This kid's like 10 years old. He hitches a ride until they get to...
Looks like a quarry.
Yeah, they're moving packages. Yeah, we find out it's soap.
Spoiler.
It's just bars of soap. Zorro shows up. Don't know how. Don't know why he would have been there, but Zorro shows up to save the day.
He must have been following some lead that we didn't see.
It's poor writing. You know why? Do you know what a Deus Ex Machina is?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they do it in this movie like 3 times.
He shows up just in the nick of time to save. Yeah.
A Deus Ex Machina is when it's a writing tool. When you've put your characters in a situation that they can't reasonably get out of... Essentially, you've written yourself into a corner, then a third party miraculously shows up and saves the day.
Yeah.
And that's a situation you try to avoid because it's cheap.
But it does happen. It happens a lot in a lot of
media. Happens a lot. In better movies, they'll still use these, but they'll justify it. They'll write it up a little bit to justify why that character would be there. But it's still kind of a Deus Ex Machina.
Kind of like...
In this movie, it happens 3 times.
Gandalf showing up at the end of the Battle of Helm's Deep. Even though, I don't know if that counts, because it was set up earlier that he would be there at a certain time.
Maybe, yeah.
Because he was like, hold out until like the first light of dawn or something like that.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I don't know. But, I mean, if you want to list examples, we can probably list a bunch. But in this movie,
plenty.
Exactly. But my point is... This kid hitched a ride on a wagon. He didn't know where he was going. They took him to the middle of nowhere, and Zorro just knows where to go, knows his kid's in danger, and is there just to save the day. How?
Did he know that was Joaquin?
There's no cell phones, there's no trackers. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He would have had to, he would have just had to have been at the right place at the right time to be there and save him.
Which, to be fair, can happen, but... It's happening a lot.
No.
It's happening a lot.
It happens like 2 other times in this movie. So anyway, Zorro saves the day, saves the kid. They escape together.
And Joaquin steals a bar of soap.
Takes a bar of soap, exactly. So they have a little scene, which I thought was interesting because Joaquin is super excited to see Zorro as his hero. But Zorro knows if he sees my face at all, he's going to recognize me. I'm his dad. Yeah. He's not wearing, not wearing that much.
He keeps turning Joaquin like away from him.
Yeah. The scene was cute, except that I have mixed feelings about this because Zorro tells him in Spanish, like, oh, speak to me in Spanish. He doesn't say why, I think.
He says something like the language of our fathers or something.
Something stupid, yeah.
But why?
His point is he won't recognize my voice if we speak in Spanish. But,
which, maybe he doesn't speak a lot of Spanish at home.
But the kid knows Spanish. The kid's bilingual, so he must speak Spanish at home.
That's true, too.
And
it's a cute scene, but the context is a little weird.
No, the logic makes no sense because... Even if you don't speak to someone because I'm bilingual. I speak to people in different languages.
Right.
And specifically, certain people in certain languages, like I speak to my mom in Spanish. I speak to my friends in English. I speak to my coworkers in Spanish. But if any of these people were to start speaking to me in the other language, I would still 1,000% recognize their voice. That's total nonsense. And so the fact that at first I was like, this is kind of offensive for you to tell me that you can't recognize someone's voice in a different language. But at the same time, they put this entire scene in Spanish. So the justification for doing so was shit. But I like that it happened. You know what I mean? The end result, I was all for. Because it's super cute that
if it was better implemented.
Exactly. He has this really nice moment with his kid. And it's all in Spanish, all subtitles. And they do it for like 2-3 minutes. It's not short.
No,
they
it's a
stuck
long
to
scene.
it.
And it is a good scene.
Yeah.
It's out of place.
I'm all for it. But don't say it's so that he doesn't recognize your voice, because that's bullshit. Like, you sound exactly the same. You sound like Antonio Banderas. Yeah. We would recognize you. Like, you don't speak Spanish. You would still recognize his voice if you just heard him speaking.
Better logic would have been like, hey, talk to me in Spanish so, the people around us, if they're listening, don't understand what we're saying.
Well, I mean, they're in California.
Yeah, but they're all
That's the other thing.
They're all like white Americans.
Not the racist bad guys. Okay. So you know what they should have done? They should have got captured.
Oh, that would have worked.
That would have worked because all of their captors would have been the racist white guys.
The racist guy be like, stop speaking Spanish.
Exactly. But they would be speaking Spanish to each other, and that would have been proper justification, and probably a better scene too.
Yeah.
Look, man, we can write this movie better than they can. That's all I'm saying.
But it is like a cute, like, father-son scene where he's trying to, like, hide himself.
Yeah. So he takes the soap back to Commissioner Gordon, the priest. Priest Commissioner Gordon is what I'm going to start calling him. His name's Felipe. And they look up what the symbol means. And the symbol on the soap and the words that they couldn't read in Latin. And it's all a secret society. It's basically the Illuminati.
Isn't it like the Knights of Aragon?
Something like that, yeah. I don't know if that's real or not, but it's essentially like an Illuminati type deal.
Yeah.
Where they're like, very conveniently read it in a book.
Yeah, which is a cool idea. I like the idea of there being a secret society. What's stupid is that they just have a book that has everything about the secret society.
Exactly.
You're not very secret if all of your information's in like an encyclopedia or something.
For one. I also hate when in movies they treat books like Google. That you can immediately find the thing you're looking for, and you're like, oh, here's all the information right here.
It'd be different if you were like in like the library in the Vatican or something where they have like archives of shit. That's a little different.
Sure, that too. But it would take you forever to find this information in books. Like, books have indexes and stuff, but still,
Even with the Dewey Decimal System.
But you can't just like open a book and be like, hey, here's all the answers conveniently for us. Let's read it. And no. So now they're suspecting this secret society. And they don't know what they would want soap for. So they're confused.
Elena has the other half to this puzzle. She just hasn't shared her information.
The explosion.
The explosion,
but he knows that too.
And it was the same words that she didn't understand. It was the Latin words. But yeah.
Nonsense.
Right after this, Alejandro leaves the church, and then that's when he gets like stabbed by the agent with the ring.
They stab him? Oh, yeah, they stab him with like a tranquilizer.
Yeah.
I was reading my notes. I wrote Ben because the actor that plays one of the agents is Ben Linus from Lost. Oh my God. Who they should have made him the bad guy. He's a good actor. But this was still early in his career. This was around season 2 of Lost.
Oh, okay.
So not later on where he's already like the big bad. But 2005.
Alejandro gets like discreetly stabbed by some sort of tranquilizer.
Yeah.
And he gets into like a carriage and then like passes out.
They throw him in a jail and he wakes up, and it's the two guys from the beginning, the two agents that
Yeah, we find out that they're actually Pinkerton agents.
Yeah. They're detectives, Pinkertons. So they're like, "Hey, you're dumb. We know you're Zorro. Stop getting in the way because we are employing your ex-wife, blah blah blah."
Oh, yeah.
And you stay here. Otherwise, we're going to tell everyone that you're Zorro. However, here's the thing. He's Zorro. Like, why not ask him to, like,
Why
help?
didn't they recruit him?
Exactly.
Well, he didn't have history with Armand, though. And Elena did. So I guess that's...
Still, Zorro
But still use his help.
Like, he's the legendary Zorro. This movie's called Legend of Zorro.
He wouldn't be getting in the way you give him information.
Yeah. They should have brought him in. I mean, and there's a throwaway line. They're like, "Oh, we don't deal with vigilantes or something like that." But still, he's fucking Zorro. Like, you know what he can do.
Yeah.
The whole we're gonna go out of our way to keep you out of this is counterproductive for them at this point. You know?
Yeah, they could have been, actually working on the case.
Yeah. Anyway, Joaquin finds him because he goes.
He's going to a bar looking for his dad.
He's like, I checked all the bars and then I thought to check the jails for you. Which, that actually kind of made sense, honestly.
But then he's like all worried. He's like, but why are you in jail?
Yeah.
Oh, this is because he's like freaking out and looking for his dad because Elena just said yes to Armand's proposal.
Right. And they escape. And then guards show up. And then Alejandro fights them off. Joaquin's like impressed that like his dad.
Yeah, he's like, how do you know how to do that? Jail changes
Zorro.
a man.
It's been there for like an hour.
And Joaquin just buys it. He's like, oh, all right.
He's also 10. Meanwhile, Elena basically is getting caught, right? She gets found out. She does a Zorro too because she's fighting some people.
Yeah.
Zorro shows up. They all do Zorros together. They fight.
They all do Zorros together.
They all fight.
It was kind of cool to see them fighting side by side.
Sure. And again, it's established that she does know how to fight.
Right.
She doesn't need to be a whole Zorro on her own is all I'm saying, with all the sneaking around and the spying and
Yeah.
I don't know. And so and then they have a makeout.
Oh yeah, they do.
It's pretty steamy too. Because at this point Zorro knows that, she was a spy. So he doesn't really take it personally anymore.
No. It's like that, like, oh, I'm mad at you, but like not really.
Yeah.
They're like play fighting and then they make out.
Yeah. So together they spy on Armand, and as he unveils his entire plan to all of his fellow like secret society people. This is basically a bad Bond movie, by the way. I don't know if you noticed, but it feels a lot like a bad James Bond movie. And there's also an odd job.
Was it the bald guy?
Yeah, there's a bald guy with a wispy little mustache. And he has like...
It's like Armand's like bodyguard or something?
He's an odd job. And he has like a scythe as like a weapon.
Yeah, you never see him use it, but...
He never uses it. He just shows it off like 10 times and it's very threateningly. He never uses it.
I think it's implied that he used it to kill the Pinkerton agents.
Oh, yeah.
Because he just... But again, you don't see him actually use it, though. You see...
What's the PG-ness of it,
Yeah,
too.
you see both of the Pinkerton agents just dead in a closet.
Right.
Yeah.
No blood. It's the PG.
They're very pale, though. Very pale. There might be some blood.
Maybe a little bit. But, so he's explaining the plan. The plan is we're making soap because our chemists have learned that through soap you can extract the glycerins and make nitroglycerin, which is an extreme explosive.
You ever seen Fight Club?
Yeah, that's what they do in Fight Club. They did a Fight Club.
Their plan is Project Mayhem.
Yeah, Project Mayhem. His name was Robert Paulson. So the plan is they're going to send all this nitroglycerin to the Confederate Army. That way they can control the outcome of the Civil War because they do not like the United States because the United States is meddling too much with their secret society bullshit.
Yeah,
right?
so they have like the Confederate generals in on this as well. And
Yeah.
you have like some general from Alabama here because of course.
Yeah, obviously. So there's a fight. Elena gets found out. The little boy gets captured. Zorro is about to blow up the train, but then he realizes that his wife and kid are like right
being
there.
taken to the train.
So he's like, fuck.
He's like, I gotta defuse it.
He defuses the explosion he had going on and then gets captured.
So
he
this
gets
time,
captured?
This time his family got in the way. Yeah, he gets captured.
Yeah, he gets captured, yeah.
Because it's right after he stops the explosion, they capture him.
Yeah.
They're about to kill him in front of his family.
And Oddjob's about to kill him. Right.
Yeah. This is where Joaquin finds out that Zorro is his father because they unmask him.
Oh, yeah, right in front of him.
It's a very shocking moment for him.
He should have pieced that together, honestly.
He's 10.
You were hanging out with him for a while. I guess you're right. I believed in Santa Claus that time, so this kid's already smarter than me. So he sort of escapes. Pre shows up. Oh, that's the other.
When they captured Joaquin, they shot Felipe.
Yeah, early in the movie they shoot Felipe, and then at this point, it's revealed that he survives because he shows up out of nowhere and saves the day.
He literally leaps out of nowhere.
Yeah, they didn't even try.
Remember when it happened? We were like, "Was that?"
So apparently he survived because a bullet hit like his silver cross necklace.
God saved him.
Yeah. They fight McGivens, the long-haired racist fuck.
Yeah.
They fight him for a bit. At one point, he gets like laid out on a table near the nitroglycerin extraction thing, and a drop of nitroglycerin just falls on his forehead
And blows him the
just blows his head up. That was pretty cool.
It was pretty cool, actually.
Off screen, obviously, because this movie's super PG.
Yeah.
But
like, you see the explosion, but you don't see, like, him dying, if that makes sense.
As far as like an implicit death scene goes, it was good.
He was like, he's definitely dead.
Yeah, like, and you could very much envision what happened.
Yeah,
You can picture it.
He's fucking gone.
So they're all on the train. The train has like wine bottles full of nitroglycerin.
Yeah, because that's what he was using to, like, smuggle it, I guess.
Yeah. Elena, the boy, they're all on the train, and Zorro is catching up on the train on his horse. This is very much like Chekhov's train. Any of these like
They showed
dumb
the train,
action
now
movies,
they have to use it.
now they have to fight on top of it.
Yeah.
If there's a train, there's gonna be a fight on top of the train. That's how these movies work.
Right.
It's in all of them. It's even worse than that because the horse jumps on top of the train at one point.
Yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, because the train, like, goes on past this hill, and it just jumps off the hill onto the train. Already an incredible feat.
Yeah, and then there's a part where there's a tunnel coming. It's a very like Wile E. Coyote
And
moment.
they're like, oh, shit.
And so he's running backwards, and he leaps the horse instead of off the train into like a stable cart,
Yeah.
an incredibly conveniently placed stable cart. Because then there's hay around them, and there's like, he's like, oh, perfect, I'm just leaving my horse here in the stable.
Did trains regularly have stable carts back then? Though?
I mean,
I feel like they would have.
Not an empty one.
That's true.
Why would you carry
They
that
weren't
with
using that train to bring... Yeah. Yeah, because that train was not meant for passengers.
So anyway, he fights his way through the train. Eventually, he's fighting Armand. Obviously, they're on top of the train.
Yep. The tracks get switched on accident, so the train's headed straight towards where I guess the governor of California is
signing off for...
Yeah.
He's like ratifying the election results, joining the union, basically. But they set up this meeting on train tracks. Well, it was on a train. It was on a train.
It was
cart.
on a train cart. So I mean, I buy that.
Okay,
I
sure.
buy that.
But of all places to be, like of all fucking places to be, you know,
You're on the worst track right now.
So the train's going towards them. Like I said, Armand is fighting Zorro. Elena is fighting Oddjob. His name's not Oddjob, but he's Oddjob, this henchman from Goldfinger, is what I'm referring to. It's a very iconic Bond villain.
If you play as him in GoldenEye, you're a cheater.
The bald guy with the hat that is like, he throws it and it's razor sharp.
Yeah.
That guy.
Like Kung Lao.
Anyway, so Elena and him are fighting. She just straight up explodes him. She throws him on all the
wine bottles.
No. She uses a wine bottle. She like hits him with it or something.
They were in the room with they were in the cart with all the wine bottles.
But she like threw one at him or something and he exploded. He's pretty cool.
He's done.
Yeah. Like I said, meanwhile, Armand and Zorro are fighting, and he's supposed to be a decorated kind of like swordsman too.
Yeah.
So that explains
They
why
have a
he
pretty
can...
even sword fight.
Yeah. But again, Chekhov's train. They go from fighting on top of the train to on the side of the train. They're like dangling from train pieces. They make their way all the way to the front of the train.
Literally like the grill of the train.
The grill of the engine.
Yeah.
That little like the part that like...
it's kind of pointed.
Yeah, so if like there's shit on the track, it just kind of like pushes it off.
Yeah.
That's where they're fighting. And basically, I think the kid ends up switching the track back using the horse. The fucking horse does this on his own, by the way. He switches the track on his own. Not because the kid told him to.
Yeah, the horse is like, huh.
I'll save the day. Switches the track so they do not hit the governor and the other politicians and all the people celebrating. The train comes to a stop, or almost a stop, but Zorro gets off it and just lets it
because the train's
all
about to like hit
explode.
like rocks or something because it's an unfinished track.
Yeah, he just lets the train explode with Armand stuck on it, whips off with Elena like in his arms, and then big CGI train explosion.
And then you have the death scene where like the bad guy's just screaming right before he blows up.
Yeah.
Which they did in the first movie too.
But that first movie, the explosion was so well earned, and it looked really good. It was like a real explosion on like a big miniature or something like that. This was very CGI, like very CGI, very poorly done. And then there's an Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, when he welcomes California into the Union.
Yeah, it's like a cameo. Okay, sure.
Little do they know, there's about to be a civil war anyway. Spoiler.
Oh yeah, at one point Zorro, because then they're like they're getting dressed up, Zorro and Joaquin, and Zorro tells Joaquin like the secret of Zorro belongs to all of them, and it just kind of confirms this movie's stupid theme that like they're all Zorro, like the whole family is a Zorro, you know. And then they have a wedding. Though they were getting dressed for a wedding, so that Elena and
Alejandro are getting married again.
Married again, yeah. Can't you like? I feel like you could like annul that divorce.
Is that a thing?
I don't know if that's a thing or not. It might be easier just to get remarried.
Do I have any lawyers that listen that can confirm whether you can annul a divorce?
They'll probably just be like, no, just get remarried. So they got remarried. That was the point of that. But then the bells go off. The 5 bells go off, and they're looking at him. They're like, I guess you gotta go be Zorro. Go.
And they're okay with it now.
So nothing changed, right? Basically.
Well, California's a state now.
Yeah, but Zorro's still being Zorro.
Oh,
That's my point.
Yeah.
Like, and now Elena's okay with it.
But the family's in on it now, so it's, I guess, a little bit...
Because they're all
Their
Zorro.
family dynamic is better.
Look, this is... Before we did this, I was thinking, I was like, is this movie bad? Like, I really thought about it. I'm like...
I've been thinking about it, too.
Did I dislike it? Like, I don't remember. And now that we kind of went through the plot of the movie, I'm remembering just how bad it was. Like, the plot is... When you really think about it, it's nonsense. You know, like it doesn't bring up any interesting.
No, this one's a lot more Hollywood than the first one.
Yeah, it feels like any other movie. It feels like you could take this plot and apply it to any other franchise of movies, and you'd be like, okay, well, this is a serviceable movie that we can put out. It'll make some money, whatever. Same plot. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't have to change anything.
No.
I don't know.
It's very, well, I guess we're talking about what we think about the movie now.
Oh yeah, that was the plot. That's it. So we're moving on. Yeah. So where do you stand?
I think it's definitely entertaining. Like it was good enough to hold my attention the whole time, but I wouldn't sit like the first one's so much better.
I was not entertained because
you weren't entertained.
This is one of those movies that felt like a chore. Like I kept on looking at how much time was left, and I kept on wanting to look at my phone, and I was genuinely like bored.
All right.
You know? Yeah, this one didn't really hold me too well.
Could it be because you felt so strongly about the first one?
No, I don't want this movie to be bad. I don't want to like the first one much better.
Okay.
I want this to be
on par.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And there were parts where I was like, "Oh, this is good. This feels like the first one." And but most of this movie I felt this is not good. This is bad. So this movie is directed by Martin Campbell, same director as the last one. The main difference is that it's written by a couple of different writers. They still credit the first 2 writers, and I think maybe the first 2 writers, I'm pretty sure they were working on Pirates of the Caribbean at this point, and that's why they couldn't come back to do this.
Okay.
But I think they basically still got some credit for maybe having some idea.
Maybe they penned like an outline.
Yeah, and maybe they had some leftover kind of treatment for a sequel that they get credit for.
Which happens a lot.
Yeah. But the bulk of this movie is written by Alex Kurtzman and Roberto Orci.
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So we'll get into these guys because I want to talk about them in Keep or Cancel. But basically,
we'll get into them quite a bit, actually, because they write a few comic book movies.
Yeah. They have like 3 movies that are on our list. They're very much just kind of like popular, generic writers. Like that's what they do. That's their bread and butter. And when you think about how this movie goes, I think this is a movie that looks and feels like it's exciting, but it's just kind of like a trick. It's like a magic trick. It's not really there. It's all smoke and mirrors. Right. There's no substance left. When you think about all of the action beats and the plot points that move you from one to the other, it doesn't feel organic in the slightest. It seems reverse engineered. It seems like they're like, all right, well, we want to be on a train. We want an explosion. We want these things. They got a big whiteboard. They're like, these are the things we want. Now,
how do we get it to happen?
Like, write a path that leads through all of these pieces.
Which you could do and still make a good story. But you can.
This isn't one of those times.
No. And I feel it's not the way that you should write a story either.
No.
So would you say, because I think the biggest weakness of this movie is just the writing.
Yeah.
The CGI I can forgive because a lot of that is just how movies were made at the time. And we're going to see a lot of movies in our list that are in the same boat as that.
Sure, but it's such an overconfidence to think that we can do it better with CGI in the year 2005 than we can before, when side by side, every shot of the last movie looks better than this one.
I agree with that.
And that was 1998.
But I think what I'm saying is I personally can forgive that part. The writing is what I'm not a fan of this. Like, I actually don't like the writing of this movie.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. But even other things, like the way this movie, again, we talked about the action scenes. Mm-hmm. Part of what makes that first movie, The Mask of Zorro, so wonderful is that swashbuckling, fun action.
Oh, definitely. And we did say that last week, too.
Yeah, that movie has some of the best stunt work I've ever seen. Like, bar none, period. That's it. Stunt work that now would be done in CGI. Now that the CGI is good enough, you don't see some stuff like that because they can just, you know what I mean?
They can do it without putting people in danger.
Exactly. Yeah. Whereas The Mask of Zorro, we had guys jumping off horses while the horses are running. We had guys doing like parkour moves, like side jumps from one platform to another platform.
I want to see more parkour in movies.
Yeah, for sure. While sword fighting, all the sword fighting was legitimate. Mm-hmm. All of the horseback riding was legitimate. All of the stunts, all the flips, all the...
I think even Antonio Banderas learned how to sword fight for the first time.
Yeah, you can see it. And so did
Anthony Hopkins.
Anthony Hopkins. Like, you see
he's an older man.
Yeah, and you see his face. It's not that they use a stunt double for those scenes. You see him doing the sword fighting. Mm-hmm. You know, this one, they're pulling all the old bag of tricks. You know, like we said, it's quick cuts, it's close-ups. At one point, instead of just doing a flip, just get a guy that can do a stunt double. Get a stunt double, do a flip, put it on camera. That's all they had to do. Instead, they had like Antonio Banderas close up, jumps from a platform. Then you see another close up of like feet moving, like a flip.
Yeah.
And then another close up of his feet hitting the ground.
It's almost like you said way earlier, it's like they were getting cheap with it.
Yeah. Instead of putting in the work and like hiring the right people. Yeah, no, they got super cheap with it.
And it shows.
And the other thing was how much they turned this into kind of like a family film. That compromises a lot of the good action beats that we had in the last movie where you felt stakes because you're like...
Because people were dying.
People were dying, exactly. Yeah. It feels realistic. When you have a bunch of people fighting with swords and guns, people are going to get A, stabbed, or B, shot. Yeah. And in this movie, none of it. I don't think we see... Like, again, some people do get blown up. But
that's more plot than it is a consequence of the action.
Yeah, you don't really see any of the I don't want to use the word violence because I wouldn't call that first movie violent. But yeah, no, there is fighting, and you don't really feel like any of these characters are in danger.
It feels safe.
Yeah, and like I said, Chekhov's train. Why put? Because they're children. That's why I'm gonna answer my own question. Because these writers are children and they're playing with toys. But why put like the final battle, two guys are having a sword fight on the side of a train. Like they're dangling off the side having a sword fight. It didn't make sense. Like, I'm not going to say it's all bad. There's a couple good action beats in this.
Right.
They have a sword fight in the car of the train. That one was honestly not bad. Mm-hmm. But that is where you would be fighting somebody, not on the roof of the train. If you and I are having a sword fight.
On paper, it probably sounds exciting.
Exactly. But it shouldn't.
It doesn't really work.
It doesn't work for me. Like, the first movie had... I'm trying to think of the most unrealistic fight scene in that first one, and it might be at the site of the mines. At one point, they do, like, slide down...
Yeah.
Like, the mine cart a little bit, but it still feels real. Like, I don't know. Like, and the thing is...
It felt like it happened naturally.
Yeah.
Like they were fighting and they fell.
Exactly. Yeah. Some of these superheroes, I'm thinking about this, some of these superheroes that don't have superpowers, because Zorro is by all means a superhero. He's a mass vigilante. He has above normal skills. But you can realistically believe that a regular man can acquire those skills. You know what I mean?
Through training, hard work, and discipline.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Like everything he does in the first movie, you could find like an American Ninja Warrior who could probably do all that.
Also, all that stuff was actually being done by people in the movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Not only is it believable, you can see the real people doing it. Yeah, it's not faked. So there is a sense of like tangible believability when you look at that first movie, Zorro. And when you have these kinds of superheroes that don't have superpowers, you have to kind of treat them that way, right? I think a lot about how this compares to like Hawkeye, for example. Hawkeye is a superhero who has no superpowers. He is just very well disciplined at archery, right? Like that is his one skill. I mean, he's also like a good hand-to-hand, blah, blah, blah. But, not the point. But if you want to do a character like that justice, you have to make his skills grounded in some level of believability, right?
Yeah.
And for example, in the movie Avengers, Hawkeye does a couple archery shots that make you question how realistic.
He's like not even looking, and he shoots and he hits somebody in the air.
Yeah. Look, we both do archery on the side. We're not, like, obviously Hawkeyes. And there are people out there that are, like, basically as good as Hawkeye. Like, that is real. But some of the stuff he does in that movie, he doesn't miss ever. I've never seen Hawkeye miss.
Which, like, they kind of make that, like, his thing, though.
Sure. But if they just made him miss once or twice, I'd be like, okay, this is more... Like, he's still going to hit all his targets, but he's going to miss a couple.
Mm-hmm.
I'd feel like that's a more realistic, non-powered superhero. You know what I mean? Even Captain America gets punched a lot. But even though that is kind of his bit, he gets punched, he gets back up. But I don't know. My point is, you have to be careful on how you treat these characters that don't have superpowers, because it's easy to cross into the line of like, that's not realistic. I don't believe this character anymore. Mm. Because if it's Superman or Captain America or Spider-Man...
You buy into it.
You buy into it because you've already decided, oh no, he has superpowers. So if he lifts up a car, you're not going to go, oh wait a second, has he displayed exactly this level of super strength before? No, you're not. You're going to be like, no, he has super strength. Boom, done. Now, Hawkeye and Zorro can't lift a car, right? So there is a limitation where you would say, this is no longer believable.
Yeah, when it comes to stuff like that, they are just regular guys.
Yeah. In this movie, they kind of abandoned that, right? Because in the last movie, they wouldn't have tried having a horse jump from a train into a conveniently placed stable car right as the train is going through a tunnel. They wouldn't have had a 10-year-old boy doing actual Zorro stunts, like front flips, swinging, jumping out of windows.
Yeah.
For literally no reason. Just because the teacher, like, called on him.
Yeah. The teacher called on him to answer a question.
Yeah. And he was kind of being a dick about it, too. The kid was being a dick.
Yeah.
You know, like, maybe he deserved the dunce cap if that's what he was going to get. All I'm saying is that, like, they sort of jumped the shark here with Zorro. And you don't have that kind of, like, believability in what he can do. Mm-hmm. I don't feel like this character has any heart left in this one like the last one did. It's just not fun. That last movie is so much fun, you know?
Right. Like, the writers kind of phoned it in on this one.
Well, no, they got 2 idiot writers to do this.
All their work is, like, phoning it in.
And then, again, here's another thing, a problem I have with, like, this kind of writing, is that a lot of the premise of, like, the bad guys kind of plan is predicated off of secret societies and secrets and unveiling secrets. And I feel like what that does is it tricks the audience into thinking it's clever when it's not. Because it's basically like, it's telling the audience like, hey, here are all these secrets that you didn't know about. You get kind of a national treasure like rush. Yeah. You know, you're like, oh, like, could there be like a secret society and like we don't know about it and they're controlling everything? Like, ooh. You know what I'm saying? But the writers didn't do that.
No,
you filled in the blanks in your head.
Yeah.
All they said was, maybe there's a secret society. And then you, the viewer, were like, oh, and you populated the story with all these ideas and feelings that you had from other stuff, right?
But then what they did was immediately like, oh, but, you know, we have a book and it's going to tell us all about the secret society and what they do.
Yeah. So why don't more people know about it then if it's published in a book? Because people aren't reading?
Oh, people...
Is it because they don't have TikTok? What's happening here? And as we read through this plot, I'm starting to see like how they're putting characters in places to move the plot.
Just because they need to be there.
Yeah. It doesn't seem organic in the slightest. Again, a lot of times characters are just randomly running into each other.
It feels too much.
That's not good writing,
This
right?
movie feels too much like a movie, if that makes sense.
Right.
Like, you're very aware that you're watching a movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're not really kind of like in it. You're not immersed. Because you're thinking these kinds of things like, why have they visited the same set 5 times? Like, why? Why does this look fake? Like, what?
Where did Zorro come from?
Yeah. How did the priest know how to get there? How did Zorro know how to get where his son was? Why is his son doing front flips? There's just so much of that. I don't know. What else you got?
Pretty much what we said. Like, and I think we could pretty much chalk all that down to like, this is like a dumbed down version of The Mask of Zorro.
Yeah. You know what this feels like? The direct-to-DVD sequels of, like, Disney movies.
Yeah, it kind of has, like, that like, it's the same characters, it's the same cast, but...
It's just cheaper.
Yeah.
It's a cheaper story. It's not as creative. It looks not as good. Like, it's not as clean and polished. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The music's not as good. They got the same composer. He tried to do the same thing, but it's not as good as the first one.
It becomes just like a dumb action movie version of Zorro.
Yeah, it loses all of the heart of what Zorro should be, I guess. There was a deleted scene, by the way, at the end of this, where they were going to show a grown-up Joaquin putting on the Zorro mask and riding off into the distance. And the reason that they cut it was because they didn't want to rule out the possibility of more sequels. They wanted to make more.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So it's a classic downfall where they're like, "Oh, we need to prepare to make 5 more movies," they don't focus on one good movie.
They could have made a sequel with Joaquin.
They could have kept trying. I mean, there've been so many of these franchises where like they make a bad one and then they cover it up with a good one.
Right.
You have to make 2 good ones to make up for the bad one.
You can make a good sequel to a bad movie.
Oh yeah, and we have plenty of those.
And it seems like what happens is like, they misstep, they make one bad movie, and they just give up on the entire franchise.
Yeah.
And we're going to see a lot of that in this list.
Yeah. Again, plan was to make more sequels. There was also, I'm about to blow your mind. It's not official, but they wanted to make a crossover with Django Unchained.
That could be interesting. It's the right time period.
So how this happened was that Django Unchained had a comic book spin-off, I think.
Was it like a spin-off or like a sequel that capped off the story? Or
one of those.
Something like that.
For Django Unchained, the Tarantino version.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, Zorro has been in comics. And so they did a crossover comic, Django and Zorro. They run into each other because Django ends up going as far west, either Texas or past Texas, and he runs into Zorro, and then they do some stuff together.
What's Zorro doing in Texas?
I don't know. But then Tarantino, apparently, after seeing the comic, was like, I'd be down for this. They should make a sequel to both Zorro, Legend of Zorro, and Django Unchained and put these characters together.
I'd watch it.
And having said that, I'm like, yeah. Actually, maybe not, because Zorro is not like so much of the cold-blooded killer that Django is.
The tone's very different, but you could make a good story where like both of the protagonists have very different views on what they want to do.
But they're maybe going for the same guy or something.
Yeah, but and they each want to do it their own way.
Right.
That could cause some tension between them, even though they're on the same side. If written well, it could be fun.
Yeah. So, again, it was never a thing other than Tarantino going like,
right.
Like, maybe they should do this with Antonio Banderas. And that was kind of the end of that. There was obviously no more sequels to this. This is it for us. However, they are planning another Zorro iteration coming up.
Is this going to be a reboot?
So, what they want to do, apparently, is a reboot from Robert Rodriguez, which is ironic because Robert Rodriguez was set to direct the first Mask of Zorro, and he dropped out. Is that irony? Not really. And so,
it's interesting.
Yeah. But apparently it's going to be female-led and offer a modern spin on the popular story. I don't know if what they mean by that is it's going to be set in present day because they say modern spin. Or is it a modern spin because...
like culturally.
It's a woman.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I like Robert Rodriguez for the most part. So, if he comes up with something, I'm sure it'll be pretty good. However, I don't feel like Zorro should be set in the modern day at all. I think Zorro is very much married to this time period. First of all, historically, because he was written, what do we say, like 1919? But...
yeah.
Even then, he was written at this time period, which was like 70 to 100 years prior, right?
Mm.
So what is Zorro going to do? We said this last week, up against like modern machine guns and like gangs.
Well, the whole thing of Zorro is he's a man of the people in a time where there's like, sort of like, not unrest. Unrest isn't the right word. Uncertainty. Because they're in California. It's like this new
that's what,
government.
Exactly. That's exactly what I mean.
Yeah.
That he's married to saving the Californian people from oppression, right? From whether it's Mexico, whether it's California, whether it's the United States, whatever it is, he's there to protect the people.
And
he's a Batman and he's a Robin Hood, right?
And even in this movie, they're kind of like saying like, yo, the time for Zorro is like almost over. Like
exactly, because
we almost don't need him anymore.
Yeah, what's gonna happen when the FBI is here? You don't need Zorro anymore.
Yeah.
And when what's Zorro going to do up against, like, police? I don't think it works in a time period. What they should do instead, because it's not that I don't have a problem with it being female-led. We said this last week. He even says, like, Zorro could be anyone. Yeah. Anyone would be proud to be Zorro. But we said this last week, too. Antonio Banderas now is the same age Anthony Hopkins was in that last movie.
Right.
So
if they wanted to do a passing of the torch type thing, they could do it again.
Do a soft reboot where you're basically doing this all over again. But this time, Antonio Banderas is training a girl to be the next Zorro. Why not? Yeah. At the same time, you're at least still pulling from that old movie. You're now setting it in probably around, 1870? Yeah.
You're still keeping it in universe.
Yeah.
You're not pissing off as many of the old fans that would potentially come back to watch this.
Sure. And again, Zorro belongs in this time period. And if you want to make a big splash by having it be a female Zorro, then do it in that time period where women are more oppressed.
Yeah.
I mean, they still haven't earned the right to vote at this point. This is, again, 1870. They're not even close to being able to vote. So I think that is the perfect time period to do a movie like that. Not only that, you've got Joaquin running around. So what he's doing. Like, you've already wrote this character in. At this point,
Joaquin he'd be an FBI agent.
Yeah, let's see, 2005, it's been 15 years, he'd be 25. So what's he doing?
You could use the actor again.
I mean, maybe, but I'm just saying.
Yeah, we don't know if his skill held up.
You can use any actor at this point.
Yeah.
But there's so many possibilities here. You can make Joaquin the bad guy. Think about it. You could do an Anakin Skywalker, where he tried to train him to be Zorro, but they didn't get along. He went off, and now he's, I don't know, doing something bad. And now we have an Antonio Banderas Zorro who's in a similar place in life as Anthony Hopkins was, because he had lost his wife, he had lost his daughter, and he has nothing left but to train Zorro and keep the Legend of Zorro going. Mm-hmm. You could put Antonio Banderas in a similar situation where he lost his son, right, to whatever. Maybe he's doing crimes. Yeah. Maybe he's using all these new skills to do crimes. And he has to train this new female Zorro that he just finds off the street to stop him. Like, right. I'm spitballing here. All I'm saying is there's things you can do without doing a full hard reboot, because that fucking first movie is so fucking good that it shouldn't just be thrown in the Phantom Zone and forgotten. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So we'll see how it goes. I mean, I'm open to it. Like I said, I like Robert Rodriguez.
And that's if it even actually gets off the ground, because
this is super early. Yeah.
So many things get announced and then just never come to fruition.
Yeah, this is so early in the game, but yeah, so it's bad. Listen, it's bad. You got anything else before we move on to our next segment?
Ready to move on.
All right, our next segment is called Keep or Cancel. It's where we talk about actors or creatives, people in the movie. We decide if we're going to keep them or we're going to cancel them. So last week we did Anthony Hopkins. We didn't do Antonio Banderas because we thought we'd save him for this week.
Yeah.
But I feel like there's just so many actors we're going to get to when we do Keep or Cancel that we're just going to be like, yeah, he's good. And that's all I got. Like, there's nothing super interesting for or against. You know what I mean? Thoughts on Antonio Banderas?
Everything I've seen him in, I've liked him in.
You see what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
Here's the problematic nature of this segment. You're going to get some really good people, and you're going to be like, yeah, it's fine.
And I think the first time I saw him was actually when I was a kid. Spy Kids. He was the dad.
Yeah.
And he's as charming in that as he was in Mask of Zorro.
I think I probably first saw him in Mask of Zorro. Again, I watched Mask of Zorro a lot. And Antonio Banderas wasn't in a whole lot of kids' movies until Spy Kids. So I wouldn't have seen him. And by the time Spy Kids come out...
You were a bit older.
I was a bit older anyway. So I saw the first one, and that was kind of it for me. Great actor. Spanish actor. He's from Andalusia.
He seems like a fun guy.
The only interesting thing... Because, again, he's a great actor. It's not that he's not interesting. It's just like, what am I going to say?
There's nothing
you know who he is.
I feel like there's nothing controversial about him, you know?
And that too. But I did see this on Wikipedia that he still struggles with some pronunciations of English words. And in an article he said, the word that really gets me is animals. I just can never say it properly. Whenever it's in a film, I have to change it for a synonym. And then he goes on to say, in Zorro, I had a line changed from, you look like a bunch of animals, to, you look like a collection of beasts. It worked so much better, so I don't care. And you know what? He's right. Honestly, that's a much better little rewrite that he did.
Yeah.
If anything, it just supports our theory last week when we were talking about Anthony Hopkins, that like actors get more pull than you realize when rewording their lines.
Well, in this case, though, he was actually having trouble with the line.
You look like a collection of beasts doesn't really sound familiar to me who just watched both these movies, though. So
yeah.
Maybe he forgot. Maybe he just kind of ad-libbed. He's like, I said something else.
I said it was something else and it was better.
Yeah.
But no, like, I've got nothing bad to say about him, that's for sure.
Hold on, I have his.
Oh, yeah, he was Puss in Boots and Shrek.
Jose Antonio Dominguez Bandera. So his name isn't Banderas, it's Bandera. Philadelphia.
He was in Interview with the Vampire.
Yeah, who is he?
He plays someone named Armand.
Oh, that's interesting. I don't remember him in that movie.
I was like 6 when I saw that movie. All I remember is Brad Pitt.
I saw him not that long ago. I think he's not in it for very long.
Because Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, Mary Jane?
Yep. Let's see. Desperado. Have you seen Desperado?
I have not.
And it's pretty good. And the sequel... Once Upon a Time in Mexico. Johnny Depp's in that one.
Okay.
It's
that one I've seen, actually. I've seen Once Upon a... But I haven't seen the first two.
The first two, yeah. They're kind of loosely connected.
Okay.
I definitely want to... I have these, and I've seen them, but I don't really remember much of any of them.
Is it connected in like the Edgar Wright trilogy type of way? Where it's like
no,
they're not sequels to each other, but they're...
Something in between. Okay. Because it's the same character.
All right.
But his adventures are loosely connected. So it's almost like a Mad Max situation.
Okay, where like you don't have to watch the
It's almost like
one.
an anthology. Like, you don't actually need to watch it.
Because each movie is like him in like the middle of a new adventure.
Exactly. And anything pertinent, they're gonna remind you of.
Almost like a serial.
Yeah, exactly. So that first movie, El Mariachi, it was like his first movie, Robert Rodriguez, and so he casted like a no-name actor.
Okay.
But then for the sequel, Desperado, he has money, and so he cast Antonio Banderas as the main character. And then the sequel to that is Once Upon a Time in Mexico, where he kind of goes up against Johnny Depp. I saw that one before I saw any of them, because that was kind of the one that had the biggest budget.
Yeah.
And I remember like the marketing and stuff.
But I mean, they're basically like Western action type movies.
Yeah. And then Shrek, Puss in Boots, a bunch of Spanish language stuff. Like a bunch. Like half the movies he makes are in Spanish. Makes sense. That is his native language.
Obviously Spy Kids. And he does actually reprise his Spy Kids role in the sequel to Machete. Machete Kills.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Which, it's kind of up in the air if that's actually connected to the Spy Kids characters, because they have the same names and stuff. But also made by Robert Rodriguez. Yeah.
It's kind of interesting that like they take place in the same universe, but they're wildly, wildly different. And it's kind of like also...
one's like a G-rated kids movie, the other's hard R.
Yeah. But it's also kind of like, it's the same characters in some ways, but you're looking at it through a different lens. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Because when Machete shows up in Spy Kids, he's like, oh, the silly uncle.
Exactly. Yeah.
I would love to know for sure if they're actually connected or if it's just like a fun little thing that they do.
It's Robert Rodriguez. Yeah, no, I mean, I haven't seen a whole lot of him recently, Banderas, but he's done a bunch of good stuff, apparently. He played Picasso kind of recently.
Yeah, I feel like lately he's been doing more like serious roles.
Yeah, more serious roles, exactly. Yeah. Look, like I said, what is there to say about him? He's great. He's in the Nasonex commercials. You know that little bee?
Yeah.
That's him.
That's him?
Yeah. And I've always known it's him. Because I'm like, there's no way it's anyone else. Every time those commercials come on, I'm like, that's Antonio Banderas.
His voice is very recognizable.
Yeah. And I'm like, do they credit him anywhere? I remember looking it up one day and there was nothing. But then finally, like I found something that said, that's him, for sure.
Okay.
So yeah, anyway, keep easy.
Yeah.
Moving on. I do want to talk about Alex Kurtzman and Roberto Orci.
Oh, these fucks.
These two fucks. So they're a very sort of popular writer duo.
I don't know why I guess they're good at writing like typical summer blockbuster type.
Yeah, I think it's what we see in this movie, because this is kind of one of their first kind of like forays into big blockbusters. But they know how to make a flashy movie that looks good in trailers, looks good on the poster, and gets people...
Seems like they're more of like marketing type people.
Yeah. Gets people who aren't going to think about a movie too much and dissect it like we are. Gets them to
Buy tickets.
Buy tickets and watch the movie, exactly. But if you take any of their movies and you apply more than like a minute's thought to it, the whole thing comes crumbling down like a house of cards, I think. These guys did this movie. They did Mission Impossible 3.
Is that one the one that's considered the worst one? Or
No.
is 2 considered the worst one?
2 is by far the worst one. 3 is, and again, these guys do some good stuff. So Mission Impossible 3 might be one of their better films that they wrote.
Okay.
J.J. Abrams directed. Mission Impossible 3 is the one that kickstarts the whole series again. Because the first movie, well, the second movie was so bad that it kind of like went on hiatus. This one kind of ramped it back up.
It brought it back to life.
And then we got, 3 more movies after that. I think 4, 5, 6, and now there's going to be a 7 and 8.
I've only seen 6, so I need to watch.
Oh, God,
I need to watch the others.
You need to watch literally all of them. But 3 is the one that kind of kickstarts it. So if you wanted to watch Mission Impossible, you could just start at 3 if you wanted to. You don't have to watch 1 and 2, although 1 might be my favorite one, actually.
Would you say like the first 2 are more of just like character introductions to like how...
No, so the second one isn't even a good Mission Impossible movie. It does not fit in with the first movie at all.
Is it canon?
It's I mean, honestly, you can say it's not, and you need to be better off if you just skip it. Because it's a John Woo like over the top action movie, which is not at all what the first one, which was very much a spy thriller.
Those John Woo type movies are fun to watch, but is this one just not?
It just doesn't fit.
Okay.
Like, not at all.
Would you say if it was a different movie, it'd be acceptable?
Yeah, different characters, maybe. But Mission Impossible is all about, like...
the spy stuff.
Like, smart spy stuff, yeah. And the first one has remarkably very little action.
Well, that's got the iconic, like, going down on the lasers and stuff.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I probably need to watch Mission Impossible 3 again. But they also did Transformers 1 and 2.
Those movies are iffy.
But
they're not the worst ones.
2 might be the worst. It might be tied for the
2
worst one.
2 might be... well, I haven't seen the 5th one, so I don't know. But
2 and 4
I'd definitely say 4 is the worst. 1 is okay.
I think
is all right.
1 and 3 are probably the better ones. Although I saw a video on 3. I didn't rewatch the movie, and it might be worse than I remember.
1 is... it's a passable movie.
They did Cowboys and Aliens, which we will watch. It's on our list.
It's an interesting movie.
Star Trek, the J.J. Abrams reboot.
I actually like those.
I like the first one. I don't love the second one, and I haven't seen the third one.
I need to see the third one.
The third one's apparently the best one. Okay. That's what everybody says.
The one not written by them?
Exactly.
The first one's fun, though.
I like the first one.
Yeah.
And then Amazing Spider-Man 2, which is the worst one by far. You're the one that says that you like it. But fuck that movie.
I guess we'll see how I feel when I watch it again, because I haven't seen it since it came out.
If you look at all of these movies, you start to see like what I'm saying. They know how to make a flashy film with these action set pieces, and then they sort of connect the dots between the action scenes, and that's kind of it. You know what I'm saying? It's like in this movie, okay, so Zorro sees an explosion. Why? Just so that he can try to tell Elena that he saw an explosion unsuccessfully, which goes nowhere, right? So why have that in the movie? Oh, it's really just to kind of break up scenes for us, the audience, get our mouth kind of watered for what's coming up in the future, but it does nothing for the plot, you know? And then apparently these guys are kind of obsessed with a few things. So first of all, Roberto Orci is apparently allegedly a 9/11 truther.
Oh, like the jet fuel doesn't melt steel beams type of guy?
Guys. Yeah, so these are guys, if you don't know, these are conspiracy theorists that believe that 9/11 was an inside job.
Yeah, they think Bush did it.
Right. Yeah. Or also didn't happen.
That blows my mind because people saw it happen.
Well, they think that no plane hit the Pentagon. Like, they actually think
Isn't there like a shit ton of evidence?
Of course there is. They just think a bomb went off and people said it was a plane because they saw the planes going into the Twin Tower.
And that's kind of an insult. Insane. That's an insult to the people that were on the plane.
Oh, yeah, and the people in the Pentagon that died too.
Yeah.
Look, you don't need to be a rocket scientist to know that like a plane hitting a very large building that is low to the ground and very spread out is going to be different than a skyscraper that it's all built on top of each other, right? Anyway, I'm not going to get into this.
No,
it's ridiculous that these people believe the things that they believe. But apparently, Orci is one of them, and he sneaks a lot of this shit into these movies. All of these movies that we've listed, by the way, except for the ones that I haven't seen, like Cowboys and Aliens, have to do with uncovering secrets from the past, right?
Right. Which can be a fun concept in a movie.
Sometimes.
If implemented right.
Yeah, like National Treasure.
Yeah, those movies are great.
But again, what they're doing is they're telling you, ooh, secrets from the past that you don't know. And your brain, your own imagination is filling in the blanks and making it more compelling, right?
They're not doing it. You're doing it yourself.
You're doing the work and you don't even realize it. Exactly.
They're like planting the seed and then just
letting you
take care of it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Several of these movies have like Illuminati type secret societies, like this one, and false flag operations. So like inciting like a war by way of a fake terrorist attack.
So what they think 9/11 was.
Exactly. They do it in this movie where there's a secret society trying to incite a civil war.
Right.
For their own gain.
Which, as a plot device, isn't the worst thing to do. But again, if you're going to put it in all your movies,
okay, but
clearly
it's
you believe something's going on.
But it's such a fucking trend.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And they've done it for multiple other movies because they do it in Star Trek Into Darkness, the second one.
Yeah.
That's all. That movie's actually about planning a terrorist attack.
To incite a war.
It's inside a war, exactly.
Against the Klingons.
Yeah. So it is exactly what they think 9/11 was.
Right.
These fucking assholes. They're also obsessed with magic blood. It's in several of their movies. In Star Trek Into Darkness, Khan and their people have magic blood.
They have like super soldier blood.
Yeah, and it becomes a MacGuffin to save Kirk.
Yep. Amazing Spider-Man 2. Harry wants Spider-Man's blood.
Because he has magic blood too.
Which I guess he kind of does, but there's no proof that would help him.
Yeah, but so in that movie...
it's to cure his sickness.
Yeah, but he discovers that he has special blood for some reason before the spider bite. He already had shit in him that his, like...
That's right.
Dad
there was a whole, like,
conspiracy
thing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it goes against the entire, like, concept of Spider-Man. That he is just a kid who randomly became a superhero, and now he has to leverage being a kid with the ultimate responsibilities that come with his powers. That's what Spider-Man's character is.
In the second one, they were like, "Oh, your parents like have some sort of secret that they were working on, and
you're special, basically. You've been predetermined to be a superhero." That kind of goes against what Spider-Man is. But yeah, so he already had magic blood, and that's why he reacted the way he did to the spider bite that they also created themselves. So,
which is a weird concept.
But again, it's that sense of, all right, we made a first movie, and now in the second movie, we're going to uncover all these secrets about his past.
They don't end up uncovering the secrets, really, though.
They don't, because they were saving it for a third movie. Yeah. Part of the tagline, I think, for that movie was like "Secrets Uncovered" too. Something stupid.
I'm sure we'll get into that when we talk about the movie.
But again, it's just what's the point, you know?
No, like these writers, like not great.
So as I look at the list of their films, I like one of them, two of them.
I like
Mission Impossible, and I like Star Trek.
I guess I like three of them.
I think if I saw Star Trek 1 again, I might pick up some of these things that they keep on. You know, this obsession with like fast-paced films that once you kind of think about it more than once doesn't really
make
hold
a lot
water
of sense
anymore. Yeah. That kind of thing, I think I might pick up on it more now. So no, cancel that. I don't want to see them making more movies because I don't like most of these.
No, they.
And when you see, you know, having a pattern like this once or twice, you won't know the difference. Once you're making 10 movies and they all have the same pattern, I'm not interested in that anymore.
No, yeah,
right?
I'm in the same boat as you. I feel like the movies that they made that I do like was just them throwing shit at the wall and just the right thing stuck.
Yeah. But again, Hollywood learns the wrong lessons all the time. So these guys made a couple movies that made a lot of money.
They're like, holy shit, these writers are great.
They're great. They make money. They're not good. They just know what
sells.
Sells, exactly. Yeah. They know how to get money from dumb people, basically.
Which, that's what Hollywood probably cares about in the end, is getting the money.
Oh, no, yeah, exactly. They're very well respected.
But here's the thing, though. If you're making good movies, you get longevity. You get people coming back for the sequels.
Yeah.
You know.
And awards. Awards are worth money, too.
Yeah. So I mean, there's a healthy balance there that you got to find. These guys swing too far in the opposite direction.
Yeah. Only awards they have are Razzies.
Yeah, cancel these fucks.
Yeah, I cancel them. I don't want to see them anymore.
I'm embarrassed to share a name with him.
Yeah, also, Roberto, yeah. Also, stop sneaking in your fucking 9/11 conspiracy theories into my movies. I don't appreciate that shit at all. So that's it. Final thoughts on Legend of Zorro. Roberto, go.
I don't hate it. I'm going to say that. I'm not a huge fan of it, But it is one of those movies where, like, I could see myself just, like, having it on in the background and, like, looking at it every once in a while and being like, huh. You know, like, it's nothing special, but it's not the worst thing I've ever seen, so I'm not going to throw this in the Phantom Zone.
What? Really?
Yeah. I've seen much worse movies than this, and I don't hate it. I still had a little bit of fun with it.
Your bar's all low for me, I think. I think this is going to the Phantom Zone. For me, I don't think I'm ever going to watch this again. It's just not worth my time, I think. Like, I kept all those Batman movies. You know, I didn't throw them in the Phantom Zone. Because I'm like, those are still, like, at some level, you can put those on and have a good time. Which is what we did. And you can talk about it, you can think about it. It's definitely worth, like, you know, being talked about. This is absolutely nothing. Like, this is not... It has no fun parts from the first movie. It has nothing to make you want to keep watching Zorro. I feel like if they made a third one, I would need to watch the first one, then the second one, then the first one again, just to get, like, that bad taste out of my mouth before I watch the third one. You know what I mean? It's like watch these in backwards order almost. So it's a no for me. Phantom Zone, never gonna watch it again.
All right.
So it sucks. It sucks that they're not making a third one to make it better. Like I said, they should bring back Antonio Banderas. They should do something different. They should ignore this one. Only think about the first one. That's the trend nowadays, anyways. Ignore the bad sequels and only like reference the good ones.
Yeah, the Alien series did it.
They're all doing it.
Terminator did it multiple times.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's it. Next week we are moving on to. Do you want to say what movie are we moving on to next week?
Ooh, Daredevil,
2003. This was your pick.
Yeah. I haven't seen this one in a very long time, so I know it's a bad movie. I know it's a trash movie, but I am excited to watch it again.
If this movie came out in 2003, I haven't seen it since like 2006. I think it was the last time I saw this movie. So I'm super hyped for it because there is a lot of talent in this movie. It was no better off for it.
I think it's going to be another case of bad writing.
I mean, we'll see. Yeah. I'm really excited for it. So, Daredevil, that's the one with Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner.
Oh, do we know yet if we're doing the theatrical cut or the director's cut? Because there is apparently a large difference between the two.
Let's look into it.
All right.
And if anything, I think we should default to the theatrical and maybe reference like the differences.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Since the theatrical is the one that most people have seen.
Exactly.
It's what ended up coming out. Yeah.
Exactly. So Daredevil is not available to stream right now, so you would have to rent it if you wanted to watch with us. I don't know why it's not on Disney Plus because they own it.
Maybe they just haven't added it yet.
I think that's it because I think since it's not streaming on anything, I don't think there's any like licensing things. I think they could put it up, but they're just waiting for a slow month to be like, hey, by the way, you remember this old movie? Here it is.
I feel like that's what they're kind of doing with the X-Men movies too. They were just like throwing them up
they're
like one at a time.
Putting it up. Yeah, exactly. I don't know. Maybe by the time you listen to this, it's up on Disney Plus. But if it's not on Disney Plus, that means it's not on anything. But I own it. So Daredevil 2003, we will be coming back. We're also going to have a couple bonus episodes upcoming as part of a Road to the Snyder Cut.
Yeah.
I think. So that's kind of the next big thing that's happening.
And we'll be talking about just the movies leading up to it.
Yeah.
Including the original cut of Justice League that everybody got, right?
Yes. So, our bonus episodes are going to be a retrospective on Man of Steel and Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice. That way we can kind of prep our bodies for Zack Snyder's Justice League. But we are also doing a regular episode on just the original cut of Justice League.
Or I guess the theatrical cut that we got. The Whedon cut?
The Whedon cut, exactly. Because now that the Zack Snyder cut is here, we decided to count the Whedon cut as the failed one.
They're erasing that movie and making a new one. So.
Well, they say they're not. They say that the Whedon cut is the official one, but we'll see. Because I feel like if this... I want this to be good, but if it is good, then,
why not go with
Hamada and all the WB people aren't going to be like, no. Like, if this is the version that turns everyone around, then they're going to say, like, no, we need to build off our movies off of the Snyder Cut. Even if Zack Snyder's not involved, at least put that connective tissue in there. You know what I mean?
And it's not like the Justice League movie has done anything of consequence for the DCEU yet.
No, they completely ignored it.
Yeah.
It's been buried so deep, like, they basically don't want you to watch it. So why not like try to do something off of the Snyder Cut, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm super pumped about the Snyder Cut. That's why we're doing the bonus episodes. But our regular episodes next week, we're coming back with Daredevil and followed by Elektra, and then we'll see where that takes us. So, you got anything else?
No, I'm looking forward to the next few episodes. I think they're going to be a lot of fun.
I think we're going to have a good time. So yeah, guys, thank you for listening. Thanks to that piano dude for our musical intro. Make sure to leave a rating and review. Try to tell a friend.
Get us some traction.
Yeah, be like, hey, like, have you ever seen Zorro? Watch these two fucks talk about it for a bit.
Or any of the movies that we talk about.
Sure. You can find us on Instagram at Films from the Phantom Zone. And you can find us on Twitter at Films from PZ. And you can listen to us on YouTube. We don't have YouTube videos, but if you like listening to your podcast on YouTube, like on your computer, all our podcasts are up on there, so you can just put them up on YouTube.
You could put us on your TV.
You could. Again, it's just a still image. You won't see our faces.
No.
But that is a thing you could do. Yeah, and if you're sitting there screaming at your iPhone about opinions you have and we can't hear you, hey, just go on Twitter. I will tweet back. I will comment back. We're pretty good at commenting back and getting conversation started. So that's a way to, it's a more efficient way to yell at your phone.
Yeah.
Right?
We're down to argue and debate. Just don't be complete assholes about it, you know?
Sure. Or do.
Or do.
That's cool. If you're a real big dick, I'll read it on air. How about that? So other than that, we will see you guys next week.
Yeah. See ya.